Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another Marvel Snap video. It is that time. Sulky Hulky is making their return, and for those of you that don't know, Sulky Hulky is my free-to-play locked Marvel Snap account. I'm going to be unlocking Marvel Snap one card at a time and giving weekly updates on different builds, what my collection log level is, what my rank is, just an update on the account as a whole. And last week we started at collection log level 147 and we had 1,500 credits or so, and we were ranked 14. So we've made a lot of progress. As you can see, we are at 4,975 credits, all thanks to the daily and weekly challenges, some season pass rewards, and claiming our free credits every single day from the shop. And so as you can tell, we have a really big dopamine drop in all of these completed missions, but to be able to claim them, we have to spend some of our credits. We are currently at the cap. The cap is 5,000 credits. Before you can claim any more, you have to spend some first. And so we already had to do this a little bit to be able to claim a few of the pre-existing missions that we had completed, but now we need to do a massive upgrade spree. And so what I'm gonna do is go to upgradable, and we are just going to target and hit everything that we can. And this part takes a little bit longer than it used to because there is this cool animation, which the first time you see it, it's great. The sound is great. Just the overall graphics are fantastic. But when you're trying to spend 5,000 plus credits, it does take just a little while. So I am going to skip past this part. We had 4,975 credits. I'm going to skip past this part, and then we will be right back. All right, guys, so we are back. We have 15 missions to claim, 2 rank rewards to claim. We have spent quite a few of our credits, but we ran into an issue that I've never had before on my main account, in that we don't have boosters to use all of our credits. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, we have 38 slots unlocked. What I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to claim the resources that are not mystery cards, and then I'm going to use those to rank up those cards real quick, and then we will jump back in. I never thought I'd be somewhat excited to pull boosters, but these boosters are going to help us use the credits that we have. And so if you're playing just completing your daily missions, then you're logging off, the boosters may be helpful. But if you're playing much more than that, you start outpacing the amount of credits that you're able to get pretty quickly. And so I'm going to go ahead and finish claiming these, and then we will be right back. So the extra boosters from the collection log allowed us to go from 222 to 232. We were able to drop our credits down to 1,575, but we have so many missions to claim. Let's go on a just massive dopamine drop. We're just going to claim all of these credits, all of the season pass reward experience. We will go through, we will get the boosters and the rewards from the season pass, and then we'll kind of see where we're at. I think we're going to be, after the weekly mission, I think we're going to be back up close to probably 3,000 or 4,000 credits. And so it's going to be difficult again to really do a whole lot in between. We're going to complete our missions, but we may hit cap quite a bit earlier than we did last time. And so it may not be a full week between our episodes. And so we have 6 season pass rewards to claim. And so we jumped a lot of levels here. So we have a few boosters. So those are going to help propel us along the path as well. We now have the credits, more boosters, just so much dope. Ooh, oh no, we don't. That's not free. That's not free, so we don't get a card variant. But just so much dopamine drops, or so many dopamine drops. Let's see the Spider-Woman boosters, and then more credits. So we are back up to 3,600 credits. It's unbelievable. And that is with us spending, we can upgrade 1 card out of those boosters that we got. That being our Spider-Woman, giving us 4 additional collection log levels. We'll claim the credits, and we have a lot of cards to claim, you guys. We have 16 new cards that are going to come in, and so we're going to be able to build a drastically different deck than we did last week. So let's go ahead and start pulling. These are going to be pull 1, so Hulkbuster, pretty good for a movement style deck, but in pull 1, pull 2, those aren't incredibly reliable. Mr. Sinister, okay. We have Craven, which is another move card. I'm not a huge fan. Cable is really, really good in the early game. So if we draw like Collector as we get into pool 2, we'll be able to utilize Cable here. And then Heimdall, it looks like we're getting quite a few move cards. Enchantress being a pretty good one to block and inhibit those ongoing abilities. We have Namor. So it's going to be Lady Sif, so the discard cards coming in. We have Onslaught. So we're getting a lot of pretty good staple cards. Moon Girl, after the nerf, I haven't found her that reliable. Swordmaster, so for another potential like discard style deck. The nerfed to the ground Nova. We have Multiple Man for a move style deck. Squirrel Girl, just so many cards. And these are all going to be common. And so and then we have Morbius coming in as a discard type card. So pretty good. We just need Collector to really make a discard style deck work. And that was all of our cards. And so let's go ahead. We got a lot of new cards. A lot of new, pretty decent cards. So typically it's going to be most worthwhile to continue running like a Zeus style deck until you start running into Killmonger. At the collection log we were at, and probably even now, I doubt that we still see Killmonger that often. Once you start getting closer to 300, 400 collection log, you're going to start seeing Killmonger ran pretty consistently, and at that point you will definitely need to make a shift. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to be drafting a new deck each week and utilizing it throughout the week to find a way to win and progress our account. And so with our cards being pulled, all 16 new cards, we're going to want to use some of those in our deck. I just need to figure out what type of deck is going to be best. I may do some kind of discard deck with our Apocalypse, Morbius being a decent one. You really don't get a lot of the great discard resources until you start getting deeper into pool 3. But as early as pool 1, it may be okay. That I have in mind. I'd like Collector before I did like a Cable Devil Dino style deck. And then we could do just some high value cards to utilize like Scorpion, Enchantress, maybe an on reveal style deck. So like Wolfsbane, Odin, that sort of thing. Let me take a look to see what cards we have, and then we're going to draft something for you guys. So we did end up drafting a deck, and I know in this deck Collector would be hugely beneficial to it, but it feels like there are a lot of cards that are already going to support our Devil Dino here. And so I want to try to explore this deck list. For those of you players that are new, Devil Dino at the start of the beta just ran rampant for several weeks before ended up getting nerfed from 3 cost to 4. Same thing with Moon Girl. But I think that this offers enough support to keep our hand size full, to really benefit our Devil Dino. We have some extra power push in Iron Man, White Queen, that I wanted to try to explore this list a little bit. Our other options were an on reveal style deck, which feels okay, but it's kind of hit and miss. It's harder to push as much power as you want to onto the board. And then we could have done a move style deck or a discard deck, but I feel like we probably need a few more resources to make those consistent and work well. So we ended up going with a Devil Dino style deck, and I'll run through it really, really quickly for those of you that maybe aren't as familiar with this deck archetype. If you are and you want to just jump straight to the gameplay, there will be chapters in the time bar, and you can go ahead and skip ahead if you don't want to hear the deck explanation. And so for Devil Dino has the ongoing ability +2 power for each card in your hand. So if we can guarantee that our hand size is going to be pretty large at the end of the game, we can have a 12 power Devil Dino, a 14 power Devil Dino, which at this collection level is huge. If we can have that much power onto the board and then win another lane by having like a Bishop, a Wolfsbane, or a White Queen, and capping it off with Iron Man, we can get an insane amount of upside in both of those lanes to swing them in our favor. So to guarantee that Devil Dino stays large, we want to have cards that generate additional cards into our hand when they're played. So going through those cards, first up we have Mantis. So Mantis I wouldn't recommend for everybody. Mantis is pretty difficult to play consistently. You have to be able to read where the opponent is going to drop their cards. Otherwise, you're just playing a 1 power card onto the board, and you're going to end up dropping your Devil Dino's power by 2. But if you can anticipate where they're going to play, Mantis is going to steal one of their cards from their deck and add it to your hand, thus keeping your hand size equal. We have Cable. Cable is on reveal going to put the bottom card from your opponent's deck into your hand. This is going to, 1, keep our hand size consistent, and then 2, take some resources from the opponent, and we're able to gain some knowledge of what deck they're running because of that. The most consistent card for this deck and for supporting Devil Dino is going to be Sentinel. Sentinel has the owner availability, add another Sentinel to your hand. So you're going to be able to play this card as much as you want, and you're not going to reduce your hand size. So you're always going to return a Sentinel to your hand unless it gets discarded or something else kind of random outside of your control happens. You're always going to have Sentinel return to your hand. We have Moon Girl, who at 4 costs is a little difficult to play, but she has the owner availability duplicate your hand. So this is going to allow us to quickly increase our hand size. So let's say we played several resources early. This is going to allow us to increase our hand size back up to 6, back up to 7, so that we can cap out and capitalize on Devil Dino's ability. And then we have the recently buffed up White Queen. So it's been a few weeks, but she used to only on reveal draw a copy of a 6 cost card from your opponent's hand, but she was adjusted to draw a copy of the highest cost card from your opponent's hand. So she gets a lot more use now, because no matter what kind of hand size they have, no matter what kind of deck they're running, we're gonna be able to guarantee that we copy a card from their hand to increase our hand size and figure out what their highest cost card is, so that we know what kind of strategic play line they may be going for. And then the other cards are just good value cards that are going to be able to help us lock down, win a lane, or shift power into lanes that are harder to push power and play power into. Nightcrawler is a 1 cost, 2 power card. Nightcrawler is mainly in this deck so that we can drop him, and then if, let's say, Sanctum Sanctorum comes up, we can shift that power over. That way we can push at least a little bit into that location that we can't typically play cards into. Armor is in this deck to kind of start protecting some of our cards. So as we get deeper into the collection log, we're going to start seeing cards like Shang-Chi, we're going to start seeing cards like Killmonger. So Armor is going to be able to either protect our high power cards or our 1 cost cards. We have Wolfsbane. Wolfsbane has the owner availability plus 2 power for each other card you have here. So off of 1 play, Wolfsbane is going to be able to be a 3 cost, 7 power card, which is a pretty good power level ratio if we drop her into the lane as the last card in that location. And then we have Bishop. Bishop is going to benefit from every card that we play, and since we're going to have some pretty high turnover in like Sentinel, Cable, Mantis, we're going to be able to buff up Bishop quite a bit, at least to the point where it is comparable to other 3 cost drops. We have Enchantress. Since we're going to be running a Devil Dino and Iron Man, we want a way to be able to counter if the opponent has these same or similar cards. So Enchantress is going to on reveal remove the abilities from all ongoing cards at the location. So we want to make sure that we don't drop her in a lane that we have an ongoing ability, but she's going to be able to take those lanes that would otherwise be guaranteed losses. So a lane that has Iron Man, a lane that has Devil Dino, and then swing it in our favor. And then finishing out and rounding out the deck list, we have Iron Man. Iron Man is a pretty good late game card in being able to kind of swing and propel a lane's power level drastically. So a lane that they thought they were going to be competitive in or had locked down, we can sometimes sneak out by dropping an Iron Man to double the power that we had at that location. And so that is the general idea of the deck list. And before we go ahead and jump into any games, I want to remind you guys, because I don't know if I pushed it hard enough, that the biggest resource as a free-to-play player is going to be completing your daily and your weekly missions. This is going to allow you to get consistent credits every single day, and if you do have gold, I recommend using it on refilling your daily missions. Refilling your daily missions is the same gold to credit ratio as buying credits outright, but with daily missions, you do get the upside of getting some season pass XP so that you're able to get further into that season pass reward track. You get some additional credits, some additional gold to then reinvest into more daily challenges, and you can progress your account faster that way. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into a few games and test out our new list. All right, so first up we have Anais, and the first location is Clintar. We don't want to drop anything in Clintar, even if we had one of our 1 cost cards, so like Nightcrawler or Mantis. It's typically a location you want to stay away from because of that big, hard drawback. And so on turn 2, we still don't have anything to play, which is okay. We have 5 cards that we would have been able to play by this point. So the odds of us dead drawing like that are low. So I don't think it will be something that happens very often. And then here, we do have a few cards we can play. I am going to play our Bishop into Clintar as the first card we play. But then I think we'll be able to drop our Mantis, which they went ahead and dropped into Clintar, which then steals one of our cards. So then we also have Devil Dino, which we'll be able to drop into the Crimson Cosmos. But I think we go with dropping our White Queen into the Crimson Cosmos instead. That's going to take their highest cost card, make a copy of it. So that'll give us some information on what they have in their hand and what their potential in-game strategy is. So they dropped a White Queen as well. So they are running a very close deck to what we are. And so they ended up pulling either our Moon Girl or our Devil Dino. And then we, of course, pulled their Moon Girl, which is not the card we necessarily wanted to see here. And then we're going to be able to play our Devil Dino into Atlantis. We could also push him into the Crimson Cosmos, but I just don't know if that's going to be a great upside. But actually, I think what we're going to do instead is play our Devil Dino into Clintar. We're going to drop Mantis into Atlantis. Mantis in Atlantis to try to, if they're going to try to cap out their Angela and grow that strength, maybe we can steal one of their cards like they stole ours. We just want to get payback here. We just want to get even. So they do. They cap out Atlantis, and they drop Devil Dino there. So what we're going to be able to do on turn 6 is going to be able to drop a sneaky Enchantress, potentially to swing this in our favor. And so right now, we're winning both the left and the middle location. If we dropped our Enchantress here and a Sentinel, that's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 power. Right now they have 5, 6, 7, 8 because Devil Dino would go down to a 0 power card. That is going to be the best playline we could possibly do. We could also drop an Iron Man, let's say into Crimson Cosmos, but I think the surprise swing of Atlantis is going to be more beneficial. I don't think they're going to plan to swing both of these. So maybe they drop their resources into Crimson Cosmos, because Clintar is going to be pretty hard to swing with one card, since they've already dropped their Devil Dino. I would anticipate maybe a Moon Girl or something similar, but it's not going to be enough to win this lane anyways. I think we're pretty safe here. Let's go ahead and drop our Enchantress, bring their Devil Dino. It's so satisfying to counter a Devil Dino with an Enchantress, with a Rogue, when you get later in pool 3, which steals their ongoing ability. And so then they do move their Nightcrawler out, which is a little bit scary. We may not have the win in Atlantis. We do have the win in Crimson Cosmos, and then depending on what they drop into Clintar, we would be able to see. They drop an Enchantress as well, which then of course counteracts our Devil Dino. They drop a Collector as their last card. We should have lost. We really should have lost that game. The Collector, of course, buffed up their Angela by 2, making it the same as if they had left their Nightcrawler. The Enchantress was an unfortunate target of our Devil Dino, so we were anticipating winning this one, and we didn't, and I think they were anticipating winning this one, and they didn't. And so we both kind of swapped each other. It's just fortunate that we were able to barely come up over them in Atlantis for the win. All right, so our first location is Muir Island, and we have Nightcrawler. So Nightcrawler is going to be a pretty good card to drop into Muir Island early, because we're going to be able to move him out whenever we want to. So Muir Island will trigger that buff every single turn and make Nightcrawler larger, and then we can shift that power wherever we need to. And then we also have Sentinel, which we're going to be able to play next turn and generate more Sentinels into our hand. That way we have a lot of targets that are being buffed up in Muir Island. And then we do get Super Flow here, so we have an extra energy. Do we ever want to do this though? I don't think we do. Maybe we split it. I would anticipate that they do drop a resource into Muir Island. Maybe we split it here, but that location could be a negative one. Maybe we just do stack it with the anticipation that we're eventually going to move our Nightcrawler out, which will free up a space for us. So I think we do that. If they drop resources, it should be in Muir Island, which they do drop a Groot, which is going to get the buff because we played a card there. But our Mantis is going to be able to pull a card back into our hand from their deck because they played a card there. We get Yondu, which is going to be able to burn one of their cards. Not incredibly great, but it's not bad either. And so then to finish capping out this lane, I think what I want to do is drop an early Wolfsbane here. We don't have our Devil Dino yet, But Wolfsbane is going to be able to get a 4-card buff, or a 3-card buff, become a 6-power card, extending our lead here. I think we go ahead and maybe play Yondu, and then next turn we'll be able to do Cable and Sentinel. Our hand size is going to be pretty small, but we could still draw into Moon Girl at some point. We could still draw into some pretty high quality cards. And so then they use Scarlet Witch, which changes this into X Mansion. X Mansion is a location that is very swing style, swing based. You never really know what you're going to get. Sometimes they'll get a great card and you'll get a dud. Sometimes they'll get a Korg and you'll get an Apocalypse. Oh no, a Deathlock, which does end up killing our Yondu, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So it kind of balanced out. We both have 5 power here. We just have an additional space. And so I think what we want to do is we want to steal one of their cards with Cable. We've already kind of hit some of the high rolls with the Yondu that we stole from them, the Mantis. I think we're going to steal one more card, just because it's nice to have their resources when they can't. And then going into turn 4, we'll be able to drop Sentinel to bring that back into our hand. We still have Iron Man, and we steal a White Queen from them. So we're going to be able to drop White Queen to steal their highest power card, or their highest cost card from their hand. And so we're going to be able to generate a card in return. We got the rock from Korg, unfortunately. And so here we can actually drop a couple of cards. We can move Nightcrawler out. We can drop a White Queen and a Sentinel. I think we drop both of them into mid though. And then that leaves us the flexibility. If we need to move our Nightcrawler next turn and drop Iron Man there, we can. If we need to drop Iron Man into X Mansion, we can. It leaves a lot of wiggle room for us. We don't get the extra energy from Superflow, but at this point, I think it's okay. I think we have utilized the extra energy as far as we need to. And then next turn, we'll be able to drop at least Iron Man, a rock in Iron Man. We'll be able to do a couple of cool things. Not that dropping a rock is cool. So they dropped 2 cards into the Superflow as well. One of theirs being White Tiger, which then sent a Tiger Spirit into Muir Island, and then Rocket Raccoon, which does trigger. And so their highest power card right now, or highest cost card, is Thor. So interesting. So I don't think they necessarily utilize that next turn, with it being the final turn. And so if we drop a card here, it's going to have to be at least 10 power for us to win this lane. And so I think what we do here, I think we move our Nightcrawler over. That keeps us in the lead, or that swings this lane for us this turn. We can drop our Iron Man here, which is going to vastly overkill Muir Island. But then depending on what they drop, we know one of their cards is Thor, so that could be 6 power, which they could drop here. So maybe this one is tough. So they have Thor, which will be 6 power that they can drop somewhere. Maybe we give up Muir Island. We push Iron Man here to lock this one down. We push Nightcrawler over to make sure that this is over that level. But what if they drop in? They would have had to top deck into Odin. If that is what they play. So I think that's what, I guess, of course they top decked into Odin. And the reason we know that they top decked into it is because we used White Queen last turn and pulled their Thor. And so they are going to, I think, outpower us. No, with our Iron Man, we do outpower their Tiger Spirit. We didn't play a card into the Superflow, so Rocket Raccoon doesn't get the additional buff trigger because we just moved our Nightcrawler over. When I saw that Odin, I thought we had lost. I thought we were cooked. We ended up finding somehow the play line that won us the game. That one was a difficult one. We could have dropped Odin or Iron Man here, and I guess our Nightcrawler would have won this lane anyways. But I really didn't think they were going to top deck into Odin as the last card in their deck. So very, very fortunate. We got pretty lucky that we were still able to find a way to win. All right, so next up we have Isaac. And the first location is the Gila. I'm not going to be dropping our Mantis into the Gila. I try to avoid the Gila until we have all of the combo pieces that we need, because each time you drop a card into the Gila, you're going to shuffle 3 rocks into your deck. This makes your draws much more inconsistent. So you're going to be drawing rocks a lot more often, in that when you draw a rock, you're not going to draw your Devil Dino. You're not going to draw your Moon Girl, your Iron Man, some pieces that you really need for the deck, whatever deck you're piloting, to be successful. And so here, I think we're going to play Cable. That way we get a little bit of information on what kind of deck they're running. We're going to steal one of their cards from the bottom of their deck. Hopefully it's not one of the rocks that they just shuffled into their deck, but if it is, okay. Okay, so we got Captain America. So not a rock, which is good. And then they play Lizard. So if we cap this location out, then they will lose 3 power on their Lizard. So it'll become a 1 power card, which is pretty low. And knowing that we have a lot of low-cost cards, I think it's doable, and I think it's likely that we will cap this lane out. The big house, we can only play 1, 2, or 3 cost cards, or later in the game, you can drop big units, like any cards that cost over 6, so like Death, who comes in at a 9 cost card, you can actually play into the big house as well. We have Bishop here. I think we go ahead and drop our White Queen into Lemuria. That way we get some even more information about what they're running. We generate more cards into our hand in case we draw into Devil Dino. And so they drop an Angela and a Sunspot, which Sunspot is a pool 2 card, and it's going to grow over time. So every unspent mana that they have, that Sunspot is going to continue to buff up and grow. And so we steal their Professor X with White Queen. So we know that they have a Professor X in hand. And Professor X is kind of a scary one. Ongoing lockdown this location. Cards can't be added, removed, moved, changed, destroyed. Cards are stuck and locked down in whatever location Professor X is played in. So I think we may actually need to, as much as I hate to say it, I think we may need to play some resources into the Gila. This would make us 5 if they happen to drop Professor X from their hand here this turn. That's going to make them 5 power. So we would add, this will make us 6, this will make us 7. And so dropping these 2 here, even though it's going to shuffle 6 rocks into our hand, we only have 1 more turn. So it's not going to impact us as much as if we played into it early game. But I think that helps us guarantee that if they did play Professor X here, it would be okay. So they drop a rock, they drop Colossus, and then Ant-Man to push some additional power. So they have a 9 power lane. Unless they have something that they top deck like a Blue Marvel or a Spectrum to benefit those ongoing abilities, then we know that we're going to be able to at least, all we have to do is play 2 power there. And so they snapped. I'm curious if they do have something like a Spectrum in their hand now. Because if they have a Spectrum, then that becomes really difficult. That gives them +4 in this lane. And so this is 4. We would have to drop an additional card there. But of course, we do want to try to cap this location out. I think we play as if they don't. So if they have a Spectrum, Spectrum is only 4 power. It's either 4 or 6 power. And they would have to play the Spectrum in Lemuria. So as long as we can win or tie Lemuria, we can push some pretty big cards into the big house. Small cards, but they're big power. We're going to be able to buff up our Bishop some. We're going to be able to make Lizard go down to 1 power, and we're going to be able to come up over their current power level in the Gila. So if they do buff it up, maybe we lose this one, but we win these other 2. And so typically I would snap back, but we're not too worried about gaining cubes right now. They drop a rock into the big house, which is not going to be enough. We're going to end up winning all 3 lanes. So I think maybe they were trying to bluff like they had some good play line, but it just didn't. It did not work out for them, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for us, unfortunately for them. We are going to win all 3 lanes here. Come in, win them by quite a pretty nice margin. We didn't win the big house by as much of a margin as I thought because their Sunspot did buff up with 5 at the end of the game, but it still wasn't enough. So far we are 3-0 with this deck list. If you play it strategically, you can have a lot of consistency and a lot of really good games. I think we've only drawn our Devil Dino once here. And so you can still have really good, impactful games, even without it, as long as you play strategically. All right, so next up we have Neil. And the first location we turn up is Sinister London. So we're going to be able to get some pretty cool upside out of like our Mantis, our Wolfsbane. So the cool thing about Wolfsbane is whenever we play Wolfsbane here, let's say it hits 2 cards and becomes a 5 power card. When it duplicates to another location, it retains that buff and then it will re-trigger that on reveal. So it can become a pretty large card. And the same thing with Mantis. If they happen to play a card here, and then we duplicated Mantis over here, it would steal 2 cards from them. So some pretty cool upside out of Sinister London. And then Sentinel, of course, is going to, it would trigger that on reveal twice. And we stole their Moon Girl, so they're running a similar style deck to us here. And so now we're going to be able to do 2 cards with Cable, because it's going to pull the first one. He's going to duplicate. We're going to pull an additional one. So we're really going to be able to keep our hand size pretty full in this game. I don't think we're going to have any issues with our hand size. If we could draw into Devil Dino now, that would be perfect. We could drop Devil Dino, and it would send it across to another location. So they use Electra here to clear up our space, which is okay. We didn't have Mantis on the board just for the power level. A lot of what we had Mantis on the board for was that on reveal ability. And so with her being taken off, I think it's okay. And so we do have 7 cards here. We need to play at least one card that's not going to generate a card in return. And so I think what we're going to do here is we're just going to play our Sunspot, and then we're going to pass. We're going to let that Sunspot buff up. Both of those Sunspots buff up by 2. So having multiple Sunspots on the board, it becomes a decent strategy to pass in certain scenarios. Because since we passed with 2 energy, we got 4 power out onto the board. Some pretty decent upside that we can get by passing here. And so I think maybe I'm contemplating passing, but I'm also contemplating doing something like a Nightcrawler, and then we can drop our Wolfsbane, which will then do a max trigger and then move somewhere else and do another trigger. I think we go ahead and do that. And I think we're just going to play Sentinel outright. No, we get more upside. So we could play 3 power, but if we pass, instead we get 3 power here anyways, and we get 3 power in Sinister London. So instead of trying to force cards onto the board, we're just going to play 1 so that we can draw next turn. Hopefully into our Devil Dino, but if not, it's okay. We'll still have some wiggle room. So they do have their Devil Dino, but for some reason they didn't play it into Sinister London. So Sinister London would have copied that. They would have had 2 10 power cards. Interesting choice there. So we're gonna go ahead and I think play our Wolfsbane here. Now we could get 2 copies of their highest cost card with White Queen, but I think the upside of Wolfsbane here is going to be more beneficial. We're going to get Wolfsbane. It's going to retain that +6 power buff. And then wherever it ends up going, it will then re-trigger that on reveal. It'll grow even stronger. And then, of course, our Sunspots are going to keep growing as well. So it becomes a 7 power, and then it gets an additional 2. So we're at least kind of competitive here. And so then they either stole our Moon Girl, our Enchantress, or our White Queen. But we draw into a pretty good card for Sinister London for being able to sneak some power out onto the board. So I think what we're going to do here, I think we drop our Enchantress this turn, and then we don't move either of our Nightcrawlers. We want to use that as kind of a surprise or a last turn finisher. Next turn, we will be able to do our Iron Man, and it'll duplicate that Iron Man into another lane. And so I think that's the play line we go with. If they have an Iron Man here that they're planning on using, then it becomes a little bit difficult. Maybe we should have held Enchantress, but I think getting the guaranteed trigger on the Devil Dino here is going to be pretty beneficial. That's going to make this really hard, the Gila really hard for them to swing and win. And so then they do end up capping out the location. So they have a Collector, which is late game for them to be dropping a Collector. It's not going to be anywhere near enough power. Using your locations strategically, you can really swing a game depending on how you drop those resources. And so we're going to move our Nightcrawler over. We now have an Iron Man. That's going to make this lane something like a 36 power lane. And then that's either going to come here and make it a 30 power lane. And then, of course, Sunspot's going to buff up as well. It just makes for a really, really big power push to finish off the game. And we're going to leave the remaining 2 energy, even though we could do something like an armor. Our Sunspots buffing up is going to be more beneficial to us than trying to force 1 additional card. So we still didn't draw into our Devil Dino. I'm starting to think maybe he doesn't exist, but we're gonna win anyways because of how much power we can push and how we strategically played around Sinister London. Ooh, and so they used Enchantress, and so they could have targeted our Iron Man there right at the end, but of course it still wouldn't have been enough because of our Sunspot being growing into an 11 power card. So a 1-cost card that we were able to buff little by little, especially helped with that additional turn in Limbo, into an 11 power card. So we end up winning all 3 lanes. We kind of put an emphasis on how much we won by because of the Iron Man. Just overall, a very, very solid game. A very fulfilling win. With that victory, we are going to go ahead and end the video here. Our Devil Dino list does perform very, very well. If you happen to pull Collector from Pool 2, he's an instant add in my opinion. You could remove something like Armor, something like Bishop or Wolfsbane to add in the Collector, and you typically will get more upside. The Collector will usually end up being anywhere from 6 to 10 power, which is a pretty good power level for a 2-cost card. But even without the Collector, this offers so much flexibility and ability to push so much power onto the board that I feel like it is worth it even now. As we are getting closer to like the Killmonger stage, we want to kind of start moving away from leaning heavily on those 1-cost cards and start looking at the different combo pieces and combo decks that we have. And this one being a particularly good one to run in that mid-level collection log between pools 2 and 3. But with that being said, I am going to go ahead and end the video here. We gained almost 100 collection levels between last week and this week, and we are already at 3,500 credits, so we're probably not going to be able to wait an entire week before our next episode. What I'm going to have to do is really grind out some boosters here. So maybe we'll be able to get up to rank 40, rank 50, but I'm going to be playing a lot outside of just the daily missions, since we do have so many credits that we need to build up boosters to use. And so maybe by this weekend we'll have another episode released. I would like to have next week's weekly missions done before the next episode. If we're using our gold to refresh those missions, it should be before the weekend. I just don't know exactly how many boosters we're going to be able to push and how quickly we're going to be able to push there. But with that being said, I am going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave it a like, leave a comment down below. The support on my last free-to-play video was just phenomenal. Every time I get a comment, I read through it. I'm still working on catching up on all of the comments. It's getting to the point where it's kind of hard to keep up with all of them in a quick manner. So I usually sit down once or twice a day and just go through and try to respond to as many as I can before getting pulled away. But nonetheless, I do appreciate every single comment. I appreciate all the likes, all of the support on all of my videos. So if you are free to play, as you get into Pool 3, we have plenty of Pool 3 builds. That's what the majority of this channel is. But as you are learning, as you're kind of growing into the game, we're going to be piloting this free-to-play account with you guys. So we're going to be doing different builds every single week or every single episode. So if you like it, make sure to stick around. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our uploads. But I am going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.